Greg, it's great to be here with you. Looking at the multifamily market first, one of the things we've seen is, the great exodus that sort of has been labeled in the press of people leaving the city. It really was much more complex than that. It wasn't just people, millennials, leaving the city for the suburbs, although that did happen. They did come of age, and the pandemic accelerated their demand for larger spaces and single family homes so they could do the work from home environment. But what we also saw happen was the Cleveland Fed did a great study on this in terms of the loss of people coming into cities was really a loss of in-migration of young people, everything from foreign students to young people coming into the cities to work into offices. Of course, those people who were hired during the pandemic and worked from home, they were working from home of their parents all over the country. And so you didn't have that major inflow that you usually do. And that really left a lot of particularly luxury space with foreign students and foreigners coming into our major metropolitan areas, the big cities, the coastal hubs like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York. They really saw this softening in the multifamily market as it shifted a bit to some of the suburban markets and some of the second-tier markets. Now, what we're starting to see is a return of, most importantly, young people coming back for in-person classes. And those in-person classes in major metropolitan areas are bringing students back in and young people back in. Also, the reopening of offices is meaning that young people are starting to show up back in these major cities. So the rents that had plummeted during the crisis are now in the major metropolitan areas, the largest metropolitan areas, beginning to firm with less of the giveaways, 3 months free rent. And some of the most popular properties actually are being snapped up in minutes as sort of people start to come back to some of these major metropolitan areas. But even within the metropolitan areas, it differs dramatically by neighborhood. Areas where there are large educational institutions, where they're going to do in-person classes fully vaccinated, they're seeing much more of a resurgence than areas where the offices are a lot more spotty. In the multifamily market, zoning is an issue in some of these major cities, and so you've seen it spread out to second-tier cities and into suburbs, and I would think you'd be picking up some of that as well.
Absolutely, and yes, we see that. Our clients have complained, the skilled workforce, finding people to work, trying to continue the construction pattern, considering it's changed their estimates considerably. The material costs have continued to climb. However, we have seen them start to move down a little bit. But again, I think there's still some major concern with some of our larger multifamily clients, investors, owner-operators. But right now, you can't find enough units. And I think as the young people are getting more excited about going back to work, going back to their offices. So now the focus is the number of units. Can they finish their construction that they started? Costs have changed. But again, it's very difficult right now to find the companies to complete on target.
Lumber prices have come off their highs and finally are back down, but a lot of those companies bought lumber earlier in the cycle, and what's priced into, what they're dealing with are the prices that already were, not the forward contracts for September. So that is something that, it's part of the inflation aspect of the economy that is bottlenecks, and it is working its way out, but it takes a while. And that means longer lingering flare in inflation and flare in cost issues for many people to deal with than many had hoped as we reopen.
With the multifamily space, though, what's interesting is it's right now with the valuations so high with the single family homes and it being so cheap to get into the multifamily space. Again, I think that's only going to help our clients. That's only going to help the multifamily industry continue to grow, expand, and stay high. Make the valuation stay strong. Is right now it's more. It costs more than ever to go out and buy that single family home, even in New York City or wherever. But the multifamily, where you're having free rent, some incentives, it's changed the game a bit and made multifamily stay strong and hot, really, across the U.S.
Many first-time buyers are being crowded out and opting into those rental alternatives, which I think is a really important point.